Mother Nature offers our palate a new selection of food and flavors to savor. Here in the Simply Luxurious Kitchen, discover simple ways to dance effortlessly with each season and enjoy stepping into your kitchen, knowing no matter what you find at the market. Well-stocked epicerie, you can make a delicious meal in the middle of the work week or to share with family and friends on a weekend. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Simply Luxurious Kitchen. Today, we're gonna make a dessert. This is something I wait for every spring. The strawberry rhubarb tart. Why spring? Because come spring, the rhubarb is available in the garden and thus available in the stores, and strawberries become available at the end of spring and the early part of summer. So we're gonna make that simple rhubarb tart, strawberry rhubarb, but this is the extra special part. We're gonna put a crumble on top that's just gonna make this even sweeter, literally and figuratively. So my oven is heating up to 400 degrees, but we need to get our fruit ready. So we're gonna chop rhubarb and strawberry. All right, so we want 2 times as much rhubarb as we want strawberries. And let's see here, we want about 2 cups of rhubarb. So we're just gonna slice into small little dices, get those rough ends off, slice it right down the middle, so easy. Get that out of your way so you can see what I'm doing here. All right, and if they're thick stalks like this, you might want to slice them lengthwise 4 times. So I've sliced this one in half, I'm gonna slice it again. Whew. There we go. Right there, watch your fingers, right through. Okay, now we're gonna dice it. Now, a few things to know about rhubarb. If you plant it in the garden, you're gonna probably want it to stay in the garden unused for at least a year, maybe 2, to really let it get its roots founded. And here's the other thing that I recently learned. When you go out to the garden to pick it, you don't want to cut it with scissors. You don't want to rip it off. You actually want to twist and pull it. Now, you're not actually pulling it from the root, but you're pulling it from the soil. And why you want to do that is you want to allow that plant to continue to grow throughout the summer, and that actually enables it to do that. So something to think about when you step into the garden. Don't cut, pull, and rip from the root, but you're not pulling the root, you're just pulling it from, it's kind of like, you know how celery, the very bulb of the celery, and you just pull off the layers, that's what you're doing. You're pulling the rhubarb from the bulb, so to speak, and pulling it up and out, all right? Because you want to have more rhubarb throughout your early summer season. Okay. All right, so I have about 2.5 cups of chopped diced rhubarb, and so I don't need any more rhubarb. And we want about a cup and a quarter of strawberries. Now the thing with strawberries is I love them, and they're sweet naturally. So this is the thing. I have learned over the years, I've been enjoying this recipe since I was a kid, that so long as you're buying the fruit in season, so again, strawberries are available at the end of spring and early summer, then you don't need to add a lot of sugar to your recipes. I have made that mistake. I have made the mistake of adding too much additional sugar to my tarts. And if the strawberry is ripe and if it's in season, the strawberry adds that natural sweetness. So today you're gonna see us adding very minimal sugar to our tart because these strawberries do it for us. All right, I'm just gonna chop these up about a cup and a quarter, and we'll mix this up. We have our strawberries cut up, we have our rhubarb, and we have 2.25 cups of rhubarb and about a cup and a quarter of strawberries. So we're gonna put them all together. All right. Oof, get all those little goodies in there. All right, so now we're gonna make the filling, and because those strawberries are already naturally sweet, the rhubarb's gonna add that tartness, they're gonna blend and mellow each other out. We're just gonna add about a fourth of a cup of sugar. Okay. Then we're gonna add a fourth of a cup of flour to give it some body, to make it thicker. You can add cornstarch too if you like, or instead I should say, okay? Then you're gonna add a teaspoon. I pinch it, so that was about a half. Here's another half a teaspoon. And then we're gonna add a half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Okay, that's gonna be our spice. All right, now we're gonna mix it up gently and let the sugar that we added and the natural sugars start to macerate the strawberries just for a little bit while we make the crust, okay? All right, so toss. And I love the color of a strawberry rhubarb tart. It's, you have those different shades of reds and pinks, and it's just, again, it's that fresh redness and bloom that you miss when you're in winter. Rhubarb is usually the first thing that pops up out of my garden, and I get so excited and I just have to wait for the strawberries. Okay, so mix that all up. All right, it's ready to go. We'll set this aside. All right, now we're gonna make the pastry for our strawberry rhubarb tart, okay? So I like to do it in the food processor. It's that much easier, and it's usually pretty foolproof. You can cut it with a fork or a pastry cutter. That just takes a little more time, and it absolutely renders beautiful and delicious results. So with the food processor, I just pulled this out of the fridge. I want a half a cup of unsalted butter, chilled in the refrigerator, okay? We're gonna do that. Keep the wrapper. We're gonna do something with this wrapper. Okay. All right. Just want to cube it up. Okay. Okay. right, so we're gonna put the butter in. We're gonna add, so this is a half a cup butter, a cup of flour, plus a fourth a cup of flour. So a fourth a cup of flour plus half a cup of butter. All right, now we're gonna add a little bit of salt. Again, I always pinch, it's about a half a teaspoon, okay? And we also want 2 tablespoons of sugar. We're making a sweet tart, so that's why we want that. And you'll notice that difference in flavor immediately, and it's just 2 tablespoons of sugar. That's all it is. All right, and you just want gentle crumbs here. Not even crumbs. You just want everything kind of gently mixed together. I'll show you what I mean. Ah, yes. Okay. All right. Now the last and final step. Make sure you have an area where you can pour some water. Put the top back on. Now, I have already measured this out, but it's 4 tablespoons of cold water from the tap. If you want really cold water, you sure can. But the thing is, you may not use all 4 tablespoons, so this is where you watch and you slowly pour. Here we go. Okay, and you're basically waiting to see if it clumps up. And it's going to differ because you have different humidity where you live. Oh, it's starting to clunk up. I love it. Watch this. This is so cool. And that is dough, and that's all you have to do. So take a look at this. Now, take it off, and you're gonna chill it for about 30 minutes to an hour, or you could do it overnight. And this is enough for 1 tart, 1 9-inch tart, square around, okay? And see how it kind of clumps together there? It's already kind of sticking together, but it's not wet. You don't want it wet. Again, the 4 tablespoons is pretty spot on. So I like to make it a disc because I'm going to roll it out here later. Fold it up, your package, and voila! Stick it in the refrigerator for 30 minutes at a minimum. But what I have already done is chilled some for us so we can get started. All right, so we're going to prepare the surface here. Now, some people already have a rolling surface, marble. I use my wood, it works fine. You could also just put down wax paper on the bottom as well as the top. It's really up to you. But you do want to flour it generously so it doesn't stick. Okay. Woo. And it's already flattened. That's why it's important to, I think, flatten it because it makes it that much easier to put, to make it go in the right direction. All right. I also like to use a little bit of wax paper on the top, but before I do that, cover it with, okay? Okay, our rolling pin here. Something else you could do, because it's a sweet tart, you could put a little bit of sugar when you put the flour down as well as the top, and that adds a little bit extra sweetness. So let's roll this out. Now, I'm doing something different. I'm rolling mine out for a rectangular tart. So I'm gonna roll mine out lengthwise. All right, here we go. Just have patience with it. You want it to be chilled. You want it to be a little bit more difficult because you want it to stay cold so that when you eventually put it in the oven, the butter, it just makes the crust a little crispier and browner, and it's just, oh, so worth it. You're doing great. All right, before I put it into the tart pan, I want to prep my tart pan. Now, most of these are pretty non-stick, but to make sure, you want to just add some butter. And this is where, Ooh, look at that. And do it on the sides too. You want it to pop right out. And this is a one with a poppable bottom that'll pop right out, so you get the fancy edge look, but you can just already have it easy to cut and easy to eat. Okay, we're gonna do the sides. Now, I said earlier to keep your wrapping paper of your butter, and this is why. This often has a little bit of that extra butter here, and it makes it very easy once you've gotten a little bit, maybe you need a little bit more, I needed a little bit more, to spread the butter everywhere you need it to, okay? Just like that. And you're gonna help it in there a little bit, but it did it. So get it in there. Yes, so excited. This is me so pretty and also almost friendly, so delicious. And you may be wondering, how do I get the edges to look nice and finished? Let me show you a trick. Your flat French rolling pin, and I'm kidding you not, look at this. Boom, 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 ba-da-da-da-da-da. Voila, all done. And you just take it off the sides, just like a little like perforated edge. And now you want to fix it. Oops, this one needs a little bit more. There we go. Okay, we're gonna add a little bit here. Fill up all the holes. Right on. Boop, boop, boop. And you know, baking is, as much as it is a science, the right measurements, precise measurements, it's also about patching. It's also about giving yourself a break and stepping into having fun and eating the crust. I mean, this is what my dogs love. I'm in the kitchen with them. There's Oscar. Hey, Norman. They love it too. All right, now what we want to do is we're going to make the crumble topping for our tart. So we're going to turn this on to about medium heat. The easiest way that I have been able to remember this recipe is, well, first of all, let me tell you the story behind it. So when we were kids growing up, we grew up out in the country, we had a neighbor named May, and she was kind of our pseudo grandmother. She was right across the street, and we would go over there and play, my brother and I, quite often. And she had this recipe for crumble for any kind of fruit pie really you could have, but we always put it on our strawberry rhubarb pie, and my mom did. And so this is May's crumble topping. So simple, and it just adds that crunch beyond the crust that just adds that extra something. So you have the fruit, you have the crust of the butter, and then you have the sweet of the crumble topping. So this is heating up. We need to get our 3 tablespoons of butter, unsalted butter, and get it to melt. So while that is melting, we're gonna mix up the dry ingredients. So here are my thirds. So I have a third of 3 tablespoons, excuse me, 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, okay? I want a third of a cup of flour. So there's your other third. Okay. And I want a third of a cup of oatmeal. So a third of a cup of flour, a third of a cup of oatmeal, and a third or 3 tablespoons of butter. So simple. Get that out of the way. Then, this is the part that's not threes, but they're the same amount for the sugars. The sugars, 2 tablespoons of regular sugar and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Now, a funny thing about brown sugar is that those terracotta bears or terracotta anything that you can put in your brown sugar really work. Now, I live in a very dry climate here in Bend, and so my brown sugar, way back here, it really dries out quickly. And so recently I went and got a second terracotta, and then you just soak it in water, literally just run water over it and stick it in there, and in one day my dry brown sugar was exactly as it should be. And so I thought I was doomed, but I'm not. I just have to get my terracotta brown bear dry a little or wet a little bit so it works. One more thing, salt. Again, half a teaspoon salt. I like to mix this with my hands. It doesn't take much time, and you want to get everything incorporated. Okay. All right, the butter is almost melted. Okay, it's on a low heat. All right. We're gonna mix everything in that saucepan, which just makes it easier. Okay, this is mixed. And again, you're not browning the butter, you're just melting the butter. You can do it in the microwave too, but I don't have a microwave, and so I do it right on the stove. Okay, so it's melted. Now not too hot, take it off the heat. You're gonna mix it all together. All right. So I'm just gonna mix with my fork until all that butter gets soaked up by the dry ingredients. It doesn't take that long, and it's very simple. I'll show it to you here in a second. Oh, it's already coming together. Look at that. Woo. And it really cleans the pan because you have the butter there, and there's nothing left to look at except for the chewy and the sweet little mixture. All right, so the sugar has been macerating the fruit for a little bit, and we're just gonna fill each of these up. And the boys are waiting just in case something falls. You guys are very smart. I would do the same thing. It's that good. Okay. A little bit here. The front one. Oh my gosh, so good. And since there's no crust going on top, you can add a little bit more heaps if you're inclined for more fruit, or not. It's up to you. Just make sure it's evenly spread out. Okay. Yum. Oh, so now, gotta get all those little extras in there, right? I mean, seriously, it's all gonna be so good. Before I put the topping on, what I wanna do is put a little bit of butter. You already have butter here, but this needs a little topping of butter. So I put, if it's a full tart, we're considering this a full tart, I put 1 tablespoon on. You can put more. I mean, this is the part of baking that doesn't need to be precise. I mean, it does for the flavor that you want once you figure out exactly what you want. But I've found that for me, a tablespoon works great. Okay? Which means for my mini tarts here, I would do, since they're this size, I would do about a half a tablespoon. Okay? Now, we're gonna put the goodness on. Crumble topping, maize crumble topping from end to end. Ah, yum! Oh my goodness, look at them. All right, now what I'd like to do is I'm gonna bake them all together. And I like to put them on a tinfoil lined pan, so if the juices come out, they're caught and they don't go into the oven. So now we're gonna put these in the oven. The full tart is gonna be in the oven at 400 degrees for about 40 minutes, and these two lovelies probably about 25, but you wanna check them throughout. Here we go. Woo. All right, we'll wait for it and take it out and we'll dress it up a little bit more and enjoy it. All right, so the tarts have just come out of the oven, and the small tarts, I took them out at about 30 minutes. They needed 5 more minutes than 25 to cool. And then this one took about 40 minutes. It really just depends on your oven. So do check it at about the 20-minute mark if you're doing the small ones, about the 30-minute mark if you're doing the large ones. And I'm gonna let it cool for a minute and then we'll dive in. All right, we now have cooled these for about 10-15 minutes. We still want them warm because they're amazingly delicious, but we just want to give them time to set, and also so the pans aren't so hot. All right, so they do have removable bottoms, so you just want to pop them up, okay? And I want to get the actual bottom off, so I'm using my spatula to go right underneath there. Ooh, yep, look at that brown edge. All right, yeah. So the crust is nice and gently golden brown, the fruit is set, and the topping is golden brown. Now we're gonna get this lovely guy out of here. Woo! There we go, and a little bit of crust for me. It came off. A little bit more. All right, while we let the tea steep, what I'd like to show you and talk about very quickly is, you know, I had strawberries and rhubarb available, but if you don't have, say, strawberries available, but you have rhubarb, blueberries and rhubarb were great together. I have a recipe for a rhubarb and blueberry galette on the blog, as well as a crostata. So for all the recipes that we're talking about here today, feel free to mix and match. In fact, I have made strawberry rhubarb in so many different ways. Made it in a pie form, made it, as you see here, in tart form, made it in the galette, more of a rustic where you just fold the edges up. I made it into mini tartlets. All of those ways are going to suit whatever type of gathering you're having. So work with what you have some fun with it. And the key is to buy fresh. If you buy fresh, you don't have to add a lot of other extra sugar. Here we go. All right. And why I wanted to keep this a little bit warm is because when we add that gelato or ice cream, whatever you love, it's gonna melt just a little bit. All right, there we go. The tea is steeping, and here we go. Let's have a bite. The boys are like, eat it, I want a bite too. But here we have just simply strawberry and rhubarb tart. ice cream and let it on there. The crust is so flaky, and the ice cream just adds that coolness to the warmth, and you taste that tart and the rhubarb, but it's softened by the natural sweetness of the strawberries. I have one more bite. Thank you for joining me today. Enjoy your day, enjoy your food, and enjoy stepping into your kitchen.